Well, Erev Tov, everyone. Good evening. Chag Sameach. We welcome those of you who are joining us on Facebook and those of you who are joining us on YouTube as well on this beautiful evening of this Erev Sukkot 5782. We begin with a little bit of music as we say, Ufros alinu Sukkot shlomecha, spread a shelter of your peace over us. Ufros alinu Sukkot, Sukkot shlomecha. Ufros alinu Sukkot, We kindle our festival candles as we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov. Praised are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with your commandments and commands us to light the candles of this Yom Tov, of this festival of Sukkot. We begin our service, our Mariv service for this Sukkot on page 394. 394 as we rise for Baruch Hu and call ourselves to prayer. Whether you're here at Temple Shalom or those of you online, you can all rise with us as we join together in the words of Baruch Hu. Lai la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed HaMevorach We can all be seated. On page 396, we give thanks for creation. Praised are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bivaro ma'ariv aravim. Bechokma poteach sharim, ובתבונה משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, ומשמורותיהם ברקים כרצונו. לי 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 בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, חושך מפני אור. ומאיר יום ובין לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. Praise for you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. On this Sukkot, we say at the bottom of page 397, the colors of early evening sky blend and deepen, allowing new lights to be seen, twinkling through the branches, the promise that in darkness new light will be revealed. Indeed, we are right on the cusp of this moment in time. It doesn't always work out this way, but we're only about a day off from coming into fall on the secular calendar as we come into Sukkot, the holiday of our fall harvest on this Erev Sukkot. We continue on page 398. Everlasting God, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and concepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah umitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadita, Otanu limadita. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shofrenu u'fumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hein chayenu ve'orech yameinu u'vahem nehege yomam v'layla nehege yomam v'layla ve'ahavatcha al tasir imenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael ohev amo Yisrael. We continue on page 400 and 401 with the words of Shema. Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Page 402. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshofbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kidoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'yot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. We read the poetic translation of these words of Ahavta, page 403. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let these words guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. These words are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. We turn to page 405. Doubting is but the forefront of faith, a faith in the infinite growth of an unbound creation. A doubting age is one of restlessness and discontent with what is current. A doubt is an idea that is still alive. To doubt that the past has uncovered all things is to express faith that many things are still to be uncovered. To doubt that we have grown to our full stature and knowledge is to express faith that we may develop into beings of such power and dignity that we cannot as yet imagine what shall be. We make our way into that place of what shall be as we sing of the freedom from Egypt and our journey through the Sea of Reeds on our way to freedom, page 406. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? עמך באלים אדוני, עמך נהדר בקודש, תורת תהילות עושה פלא, תורת תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה מרים, זה לי ענו ועם Adonai, Yalai Lai Lai Lai. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Praised are you, O God, the one who is the Redeemer of Israel. Page 408. We ask God to lie us down in peace and rise us up again tomorrow to life. It's the words of our Jewish lullaby, that God might watch over us through the night, give us good counsel for God's name's sake, protect us from enemy and illness, from war and famine and sorrow, to keep us far from wrongdoing, to guide our going out and our coming in now and forever, and spread a shelter of peace over us. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. The last three lines. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei Sukkot shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. We move to our festival Amidah beginning on page 468. As we rise and join together in these words that have some additions that we make a little change from what we might say on Shabbat or in the midweek to add in blessings for this holiday of Sukkot. We turn to page 468 as we rise. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu v'imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chaste Avot V'Imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem L'Ma'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin Baruch Atah Adonai Magin Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia Morid Hatal Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofeh Cholim Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, Lishene afar, Nichamocha ba'al givurot, Umido melach, Melech mimit, Umechaye, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lachayot hakol, Baruch ata Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Page 474. Ata kadosh, Shimcha kadosh, Ukadoshim b'chol yom, Yehallelu chasela, Baruch ata Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue on page 478. You have chosen us in love and favor by making us holy through your mitzvot and drawing us close to your service, that through us your great and holy name may become known in all the earth. In your love, Adonai our God, you have given us feasts of gladness and seasons of joy. You have given us Chagim uzmanim l'sason, et yom chag ha-Sukkot hazeh, zman simchateinu, mikra kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. You've given us this season of Sukkot, the season of our thanksgiving, to unite in worship and recall the Exodus from Egypt, page 480. Eloheinu v'Eloheinu v'imotenu, ya'aleh v'yavo, v'yihi zacher v'zichronenu zichron, kol amcha beit Yisrael lefanecha, l'tova l'chinu l'chesed u'rachamim, l'chaim u'l'shalom, b'yom chag ha-Sukkot hazeh, zochreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova, amen. Ufakdenu bo livracha, amen. Ve'osishienu bo l'chaim, amen. This day remember us for well-being. This day bless us with your nearness. This day help us to a fuller life. Amen. V'hasienu Adonai Eloheinu et birkat moadecha l'chaim u'shalom, l'simcha u'l'sason, kasher atzita va'amarta l'varachenu. Bestow on us the blessing of your holy festival, and may we celebrate them as to be worthy of your blessing. Eloheinu v'Elohevotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, make us holy with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our way of life. May our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts in its truth. V'taher libenu v'avdecha be'emet, v'anchilenu Adonai Eloheinu b'simcha v'sason mo'adei kodshecha, v'yismechu b'cha Yisrael mikadshei shemecha, Baruch ata Adonai, praised are you Adonai, Mikadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim, who sanctifies Israel and the festivals. Page 484. We ask that you accept our prayer as we say, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, favor, and find favor in your eyes with our prayer as we present it to you. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, ve'amecha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tikabel, u'tihi l'ratzon, tzamid avodat Yisrael. Yisrael Amecha, Karov lechol korav, Pnei Rabodecha v'Paneinu, Shvuch ruchecha aleinu, V'techazinu eineinu, V'shuvecha Zion, berachamim, page 485. We give thanks to you, O God, that you are our God and the God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. You are L'dor Vador, every generation. Modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu v'imoteinu le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu magin yisheinu atahu L'dor Vador, atahu L'dor Vador. Modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu v'imoteinu le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu magin yisheinu atahu L'dor Vador, atahu L'dor Vador. For all these things, O sovereign God, let your name be forever praised and blessed. Our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Baruch atah Adonai, praised are you Adonai. Hatov shimcha ulcha na'el hodot. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. In fact, the word thanksgiving, where did the pilgrims, if they were really the ones who created Thanksgiving, that's a whole history class we won't have tonight. But the whole idea of the Thanksgiving dinner is based, of course, on the Pesach Seder. And the whole idea of celebrating the gourds and fruits and vegetables of the fall harvest is all based on the holiday of Sukkot. So they knew their Bible a little bit, those early settlers in America, and they knew that we gave thanksgiving for all of those things. A prayer for peace, 488. Shalom Raha al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Raha al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. As we turn to page 491, or 492 and 493, we take a moment for our own silent prayers as we bring our Amidah to a close. ועושה שלום במרומיו. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואם הוא אבין הוא עושה שלום במרומיו. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואם הוא אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויהיו. Now, traditionally, we pick up the lulav and the etrog in the morning when we say our prayers in the Sukkot. But I know that some of you at home that are watching us on YouTube and some of you at home that are watching us on Facebook Live, you may not have a sukkah at home. If you do, that's wonderful. If you don't, the sukkah's right outside that wall. It's right over there. But if you aren't able to make it because of COVID protocols and travel, etc., and this might be your only chance to be at a service for Sukkot, we want to make sure that you don't miss the lulav and etrog. So I'm just going to go back here for a moment here and grab my lulav and my etrog. We'll say the blessings and we'll shake the lulav and etrog and then learn a little lesson from it as well. And so as we come to our blessings for lulav and etrog, for those of you who happen to have a Mishkan Tefillah at home, I will tell you that you will find those blessings on page 571 if you've been following along in this service. And so we say the blessing that says, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat lulav. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with your commandments and commands us to shake the lulav. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achyanu v'kiyamanu v'higyanu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has given us life and sustained us and brought us to this day. And we use the words that come from the book of Psalms for us. We say, Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki le'olam chasdo. Give thanks to God, for God's good is good. God's mercy endures forever. We move the lulav in 6 different directions. There's a whole debate about which direction do you start with. Do you start going to the east? Do you start going to the west? There's the prevalent tradition is you start going toward the east because that's toward Israel. There's another tradition that says you start to the north because there was a rabbi in the northern part of Israel. He lived up in Tiberia, and in the Talmud he says, since I'm in Jerusalem, I want to move the lulav in the direction of where all my people live, which is up to the north. So there's a tradition of waving it starting to the north first. There's a tradition starting waving it to the east first. I will tell you this, if you have a lulav and etrog and you start in any direction, if you make it in all 6 directions, I think you've fulfilled the mitzvah of the lulav. But you can start going to the east if you like that tradition of going towards Israel. The other argument to the north, really it can be in any. There's another tradition that also says this: whatever direction you're standing, this comes out of Kabbalistic literature, whatever direction you're standing when you pick up the lulav, now you've obligated yourself to stand in that direction when you shake the lulav, which I think proves that no matter what direction you start in, you're doing it correctly. So there you go. So if anybody tells you're waving in the wrong direction, you can tell them, I follow a different tradition than you do. It's okay. I'm taking care of the lulav and the etrog. And so, Hodu Ladonai Ki Tov Ki Le'olam Chasdo Ki Le'olam Chasdo. We shake the lulav in all 6 directions, north, south, east, west, up and down, the directions where God's presence is with us in each and every place. Maybe. Because there's a tradition from one of the Kabbalistic rabbis that says this. He says, it actually is based upon a quotation out of the Talmud that says this. You can be seated here. It tells us this. The student comes to the rabbi, and the rabbi says, where is God? And the student says, well, God is everywhere. And the rabbi says, that's not the correct answer. And the student says, but God's presence is everywhere. And the rabbi said, well, God's presence is only there when we open our hearts and let God's presence in. There's a lot that happens in our society where we don't let God in and God is ignored. It's why we pick up the lulav and shake it in all 6 directions to recognize that we can find God in all of those directions. And how do we do that? Well, one of those ways is the way that we interpret these pieces of the lulav. Lulav, of course, means palm frond. That's this middle piece here. I think we actually have a close-up from the camera, so those of you at home will have a good view of all of these. The lulav is the palm frond. The palm stands straight and tall, like the spine of our body. We stand up straight and tall. In fact, we stand up taller when we follow the pathways in Torah because they lead us on straight pathways. And so when we follow the straight pathway of God, it straightens our spine, and we bring the straight pathway of God's way into our way. It's also how we then use this right here. We call it the hadassim in Hebrew. In English, it's called myrtle. And the myrtle, if we take a look at just one leaf, it looks a little bit like an eye. When we look and read the words of Torah, this is how we can bring them into our souls, by reading those words of Torah and seeing them. But we not only need to read and see them, but we need to use, as the Arava will tell us, in English, willow, because this looks like the lips of our mouths, that we also have to speak the words of Torah. And so we need to see the words of Torah and read them. We need to speak the words of Torah. We need to stand tall and move forward in straight pathways with the words of Torah. But we can't do that with just these 3 elements. In fact, we need the 4th element here, because the 4th element, the etrog, which, by the way, in English, you know what the translation, if you look up etrog, you know what the English translation of etrog is? It's either citron or the other choice, which is etrog. Okay? So the translation of etrog from Hebrew is either etrog or citron. And if we take it, it represents our heart. So if we walk forward with the words of Torah after having seen them with our eyes and read them, speaking those words of Torah and then truly bring them into our hearts, we walk a pathway where that sukkah, which is not closed on all sides, right? There's a side that's open. Abraham in the desert, he left all 4 sides of his tent open, which, if you live in the desert, is a really bad idea, because when there are sandstorms, you can't protect yourself from the sandstorm. But Abraham kept his tent open on all 4 sides to show that everyone was welcome to come and dwell with him, that he would have his heart open to all who might visit. Our sukkah is open in such a way that it's open as well to the visitors who come. All of our ushpizin, our Aramaic word for special visitors. And who are the ushpizin? Well, traditionally, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Moses, and Aaron, and Joshua, and David. But they're also Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, and they're Miriam, and they're Devorah, and they're Esther. but they're also the stranger who might live in our town. They're the member of the Jewish community who's not a member of the synagogue but needs a meal and needs to find out that they can be part of a community, that the community is here to welcome them. If we use the symbol of the lulav and the etrog as a symbol of standing up with Torah, learning its words and reciting its words and bringing them into our heart, during this Sukkot, we make the world a better place. By the way, the lulav, little lulav and etrog trivia for you. What country is the largest producer of etrogim in the world? Israel is the answer. That's correct. We'll see if you can get the second trivia question. What country in the world is the second largest producer of etrogim in the world? Anybody who's here, all of you at home can guess. And I'll never know if you got the answer wrong because I can't hear you. But I'm going to think that you might get it right. And when you see me, you can tell me that you got it right because I'll never know. The U.S. is third place. Second place is Italy. Why is Italy second place? Well, first of all, citrus grows in the Mediterranean area, and of course in California and Florida and some of the rest of the southern states that have the sunshine and such. Our etrog that we have here that we purchased for the synagogue comes from Israel. But if you live in the Chabad world and parts of the rest of the Orthodox world, they don't use an etrog that comes from Israel, many. They use an etrog that comes from Italy. It's called a Yanover etrog. By the way, they're more expensive than the ones that come from Israel. And why the Yanover etrog? Why an etrog that comes from Italy? So here's the story. I'm going to tell you the story very quickly here. Once upon a time, Moses was in the desert with the people during the 40 years in the desert. And Moses didn't have an etrog to celebrate Sukkot in the desert. And all of a sudden, an etrog floated on a cloud and floated down to him, and he had an etrog. This is all from one of the first Lubavitcher Rebbe's dreams. Where did it get on the cloud? It came on the cloud because the Jews who were exiled after the second temple was destroyed, some of them were taken as slaves to Italy. They planted etrog trees. And there are large groves in the Yanover area, which is in southern Italy. There are large groves of etrog trees. And those Jews who grew those trees, who were slaves after the destruction of the second temple by the Roman Empire, were slaves in Italy, grew the etrog trees, snipped an etrog because they heard through the ages that Moses needed one. And they put it up in the sky on a cloud, and somehow it went back in time and went to Moses in the middle of the desert. And this is one of the legends of why some people use a Yanover etrog from Italy instead of an etrog that was grown in Israel or in the United States of America. By the way, the largest etrog grove in the United States of America is located in the famous citrus state of North Carolina. There used to be a Jewish day school there. It shut down a few years ago. They grew an etrog grove there. It's still there. Now someone else is buying the area. I don't know who it is, but there you go. A little etrog trivia for all of you. One last little bit of etrog trivia. In the Moroccan Jewish community, it's very popular at the end of Sukkot to gather all of the etrogim in town. All the women come together and they make this etrog jelly that has a lot of cayenne pepper in it and a lot of sugar in it. And you spread it on bread and it's amazing. You should all try it sometime. If you're ever with Moroccan Jews during Sukkot, you got to try it. It's amazing. So a little lesson of what the lulav and etrog can teach us, and a little etrog trivia just for a little added fun thrown in there as well. I'm going to put my lulav and etrog back over here. And then we'll come back together here as we're going to come to Aleinu, as we'll turn in our Siddur to page 586 as we turn to the bottom of the page and we all rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורל עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומי. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. כן נקבל לך. כי המלכות שלך היא עולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו echad. We come to Kaddish Yatom. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We remember them. We meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. At the end of our holiday of Sukkot, we'll come to the holiday of Shmini Atzeret, and a week from tomorrow morning. Well, we'll start off with tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we have our Sukkot first day morning service, beginning at 9:30 in the morning. We'll be reading Torah and saying the appropriate blessings for the Shacharit, for the morning of the first day of Sukkot. 1 week later, we'll be gathering on Tuesday morning, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the 27th or the 28th, I think is the date. And we'll be gathering on Shmini Atzeret morning. We will also have Yizkor for that morning. We'll have our full Yizkor service, not just saying Kaddish that day, but Yizkor that day. So please do join us on that morning. And then you can join us that evening, that Tuesday evening, for our Simchat Torah celebration immediately following religious school. We'll be together in religious school with all of our kids. Then you can all join us. We'll be dancing with some Torah scrolls and a great joy. So this is Sukkot is also called Zman Simchatenu, the time of our great joy. And so we take great joy in those holidays, but in that great joy, we also remember those upon whose shoulders we stand. And so we remember all those lost who we have celebrated Sukkots in the past. May their memories be a blessing. We ask mourners to rise, and if it's your custom, to stand with them as well. Page 598 in our Sidur, Mishkan Tefillah. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayei uvyomei uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam v'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudisha brichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Amiran be'alma v'imru amin. Yehe shlama rabba min shemayim. Chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amin. Oseh shalom bimromav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amin. Again, we'll remind you tomorrow morning we have our service for Sukkot morning. Please join us this upcoming Shabbat, as our Torah reading will be Chol Hamoed Shabbat, or Chol Hamoed Sukkot, Torah reading for the middle of our Sukkot. And religious school still meeting on Tuesday evening. We'll be learning about Sukkot. We'll be spending some time out in Sukkah. If you are part of our 20 and 30-somethings group called Next Gen, bring a picnic dinner. It's Jews and Brews in the Sukkah with me tomorrow evening. Caroline Bloom will get you all hooked up. She's the coordinator for our group. Next Gen Colorado Springs on Facebook. You can get all the information you need and sign up and join us. Bring your picnic dinner. We'll be hanging out. The beer is free and the company is free. So join us there tomorrow evening, and join us a week from then for Simchat Torah celebration. Again, tomorrow morning services, next Tuesday services for the beginning and the end of Sukkot with Shmini Atzeret as well. Page 664. On page 64, words of a song that comes from us, originally written in the 1950s and recorded in the 1960s. The words, all except for the last 6 words, all come from the book of Ecclesiastes, which is the book that we traditionally read on Sukkot. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a a time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time of embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to end, a time to sow, a time of love, a time of hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Chag Sameach, everyone. May it be a joyful Sukkot. May you be able to spend a little time in the Sukkah, whether it's at your house or whether it's here at Temple Shalom. Come join us here. The Sukkah's there every day. We have lulav and etrog here if you don't have one at home. And we'd love to celebrate with you tomorrow morning at our service during Shabbat, during our grab and go lunch on Wednesday and next Monday, and during our our service for Shmini Atzeret and Yizkor, and then Simchat Torah, a great season of celebration here at Temple Shalom during Sukkot. Chag Sameach, everyone.